If you're just starting out bird watching or managing native bird nests, distinguishing native bird species from the invasive house sparrow species can be a little challenging. This is especially true when trying to differentiate a female house sparrow from other female birds. In the beginning, smaller brown birds can all look pretty similar. Differentiating a female house finch, for example, from a female house sparrow is going to take a really close look, especially in the beginning. It gets even harder when they're all fluttering around. The distinction is pretty important if you're starting to research how to manage invasive birds. If you're trapping house sparrows, it's critical that you're certain the bird that you have is in fact a house sparrow and not a native protected bird. Native birds going into house sparrow traps is very common, and they should be identified and released immediately. It's also important that you monitor and check your traps multiple times per day when they are set. So in this video, I just want to go over the distinguishing marks of a male house sparrow and a female house sparrow. And I want you to be able to get a really good sense of these marks. And then at the end, I'll kind of quiz you with a few pictures and stuff. So let's start with the male house sparrow. When you're looking at his picture here, you'll find that he is a really familiar looking bird. He's a muted brown color with a black mask around his eyes, a black beard, and usually there's going to be a black bib around his breast. But he can somewhat resemble other birds, especially like the Eurasian tree sparrow. He may even get confused with the American tree sparrow, the Harris sparrow, or the white-throated sparrows. So starting from his head, the male house sparrow will have a solid light gray colored cap on the very top of his head. Surrounding that little gray cap will be a somewhat chestnut color ring that trails down to the back of his neck. A house sparrow's beak is sometimes also a really big helpful giveaway. It's conical or cone-shaped rather than being long and pointy. Next is his eyeline. This is where you see that black bandit's mask, and this will be just around his eye area. His cheek will be a solid gray color. The cheek is actually a great distinguisher between him and his non-native cousin, the Eurasian tree sparrow, who has a dot on its cheek. The male house sparrow's chin and breast will have a black beard and bib. The level of color on his bib, however, will range, so the beard to me is a better giveaway in this situation. When it comes to the wing, there's what's called a wing bar, and this will be white. The trouble with the wing bar is that it's very small, and if he's fluttering around, it can be really hard to see. So this type of detail, it really only helps when you ended up maybe getting photos that are not the best quality, and maybe he was fluttering around too much, but you were able to verify the wing bar along with the beak and perhaps one other good giveaway. Otherwise, so far your big easy to see tells will be the beak, cap, mask, and bib. Another really helpful giveaway is his breast. Besides the black bib that he might have, his breast will be a solid light gray color, so there won't be any spotting or speckling or striping or anything like that. It'll just be a pretty solid light plain gray color. And then the last thing is his wing colors. His wings are going to be overall brown, but with some black markings. The female house sparrow is more of the challenge. Overall, she's just a little brownish grayish bird that looks like so many other birds. When trying to differentiate her from other birds, you'll want to combine a few tells at a time. One differentiating mark is not going to be enough, but when you see, for instance, 3 or 4 notable characteristics, you can be sure you have a female house sparrow, or you don't have a female house sparrow. So starting with her head, she's going to have a very muted, light brownish gray cap that runs down the back of her neck. Just beneath where her cap ends, right at her eye, will be a very light colored line. I call this the eyeline, and it extends from her eye to the back of her neck. Again, one tell is not enough to distinguish though, as Carolina wrens also have a light colored eyeline. So that brings us to the beak, which beyond color would help us distinguish her from a Carolina wren. So just like the male, her beak is going to be cone-shaped, so not so narrow and pointy, but wide. However, this beak is very similar to a house finch beak. So again, multiple characteristics will help you with determining her from other birds. The female house sparrow's breast, in this case, is going to be the next really good tell. Her breast will be a solid light gray color, no spotting or speckling. Her cheek will also be plain and match her breast area. One other differentiating factor is her overall color. The female house sparrow and her male counterpart will be more of a muted brown color. I point this out because the Carolina wren, for instance, is more of a red-brown, very chestnut color. Again, with female house sparrows especially, you're going to have to combine the tells. So light brown cap, light colored eyeline, conical beak, and a gray solid breast. Let's repeat that. A light brown cap, light colored eyeline, conical beak, and a gray solid breast. Those are going to be your key giveaways. Okay, so let's go through some pictures here and identify whether it's a house sparrow or not. In this first one, I just want you to point out which one is the house sparrow. This is definitely a little tough. The one on the left is the house sparrow, the one on the right is American tree sparrow, and look very closely at the tree sparrow's eyeline. It's brown with a white stripe just above it. Okay, how about this one? Is it a sparrow or something else? It's something else. This is actually a native chipping sparrow. The line at the eye is black and just above it is a very white stripe. Yep, this one is a female house sparrow. The cap is a muted gray-brown. The line at the eye is a light colored stripe. The cheek and breast are plain. Beak is conical, and she even has that white wing bar like the male has. If you guess that this is not a house sparrow, you are right. This one is a female house finch. While she is a muted brown color, that speckly breast is her big giveaway that she's not the invasive Old World sparrow. Okay, if you guess that this one is not a house sparrow, you are doing really good. This one is a pine siskin, and it would seem like there is a faint light eyeline, but that speckled breast is the big tell that this one is not a female house sparrow. Alright, you're doing good. If you guess that this one is a house sparrow, you are definitely catching on. Just look at this picture and think to yourself all the reasons that jumped out to you that this was a house sparrow. This one hopefully was pretty easy. This is your male house sparrow. He's got that black mask and bib and plain cheek. This one has that light eyeline, also the conical beak, but the breast is speckled, the cheek is not gray but brown. This bird is a female purple finch. I know you've seen this one come up a few times, but I still want to highlight it. Hopefully you guessed that this was not a female house sparrow. This is the Carolina wren, and even though it has that light line by its eye and even a solid colored breast, its beak is pointy and narrow, not like a sparrow's beak. And its overall color too is much redder. One other thing that can give away a Carolina wren is that its little tail usually points up. This one is not a male house sparrow, and I mentioned this bird before earlier. The big giveaway is the dot on its cheek. This is the house sparrow's invasive cousin, the Eurasian tree sparrow, And I do have a video about this bird and how to tell the difference. Despite them being different, they are another introduced species in the US, and they outcompete our native cavity birds. Okay, last one. Hopefully by now you got it. This one is not a house sparrow. This one is a native song sparrow, and they are very lovely singers. You should at this point have a good sense of how to distinguish. If you have a bird in a trap and you are in deep doubt and cannot get a clear answer, the safest, best thing to do is release it. I will also say that it can be tough to distinguish house sparrows, especially the females, when they're all moving around. So again, focus on the combined tells and start bird watching. Go out and start trying to identify whether what you're looking at is in fact a house sparrow or just something else. A helpful app to use as you do this is the BirdNet app. Just record its sound and it will tell you what it is, usually. This is a quick, easy way to check your answer when you're out there testing yourself. If you did find this video helpful, subscribe to keep seeing more helpful content and hit that like button. That definitely helps us out and it gets the content out there more for others. Thanks!